Today is the full moon of the first lunar month in the Tibetan and Chinese calendar. And this is a celebration or an anniversary of one of the four, we'll put it this way, it's one of the four great holy days in the Tibetan calendar, and it's a celebration or anniversary of the Buddhas having defeated some non-Buddhists who challenged him to a competition of miracle powers. Now, the Buddha normally didn't display his miracle powers, and he didn't allow his disciples to do that unless it was very extreme situations, because he didn't want people to worship him as some kind of person who could do miracles, because he thought that would distract people. Instead, he wanted people to really listen to his teachings and pay attention to the teachings and put them into practice, not getting distracted by displays of miracles. But in this particular situation, some non-Buddhists wanderers had been following him around and saying, oh, you don't have any realizations, and you don't know what you're talking about, and we challenge you to a competition. And the Buddha kept refusing until finally he said, okay, guys, if you really insist. And so then they had this competition, and clearly the Buddha's miracle powers were greater, and so that subdued the arrogance of these other ascetics, and they all converted to become Buddha's disciples. Yeah, so this was something that was beneficial for these particular people and their followers, and the Buddha displayed his miracle powers at that time too, because he thought it would be helpful for people in the future to know about them. Now, I also found out from a friend of mine who is a Theravada bhikkhuni that in the Theravada tradition, this day also has two things to celebrate. First is the parinirvana of Mahaprajapati Gotami, the first Buddhist nun, and her 500 Arhat disciples. So it's a very special day, in that way. And the Buddha really honored Mahaprajapati Gotami, who was his aunt and his stepmother after she passed away. It was quite special. So today's also that anniversary. And it's another anniversary in the Theravada tradition. I'll tell you a little bit of the story behind it. It's called the Sangha Day, or the Magadha Puja Day. Okay, so it's the day when the Ovada Patimokkha was spoken, and the situation was this: that not long after Moggallana and Shariputra had ordained and become monks, the Buddha held a meeting of the order of, by the monks' order. And here it says it's in the third lunar month, but she told me it was the first lunar month. Anyway, this meeting of the Buddha's disciples, or maybe this thing is wrong, was unlike any other meetings convened during the Buddha's time, in that each of the 1,250 monks who attended had been personally ordained by the Buddha. So they all had the same preceptor, and all of them were arhats. And they had come to this meeting spontaneously, without any kind of prior appointment. And so the Buddha gave this Ovada Patimokkha at this particular time. Okay, so the Ovada Patimokkha is a brief synopsis of the principles of the Buddha's teachings. And you'll find that the bhikshunis here we'll remember them because these verses are also included in our Pratimoksha recitation, which we will do this evening. So I have a couple of different translations here from the Pali, and then the one in ours is a slightly different translation. But, okay. So it reads, patient endurance is the ultimate asceticism. Profound liberation, say the Buddhas, is the supreme goal. A renunciate should not oppress anyone. Or another translation, forbearance or fortitude is the best austerity. Nibbana is supreme, say the Buddhas. He is not one gone forth who harms another. He is not a recluse who harms others. Okay, so here it's really saying that patience or fortitude is the real ascetic practice. You know, we usually think, oh, asceticism, you can't eat, can't sleep, you can't do this, can't do that. The Buddha's saying, not releasing your temper and spewing your anger on others, that's the important asceticism. That's the important thing to hold back from doing. Then the second verse is, cease to do evil, cultivate that which is good, purify the heart, this is the way of the awakened ones. That's also the verse on the tanka there of the Buddha that His Holiness gave to us. Okay. Another translation, to abandon from all evil, to cultivate what is wholesome, to purify one's mind. This is the message of the Buddhas. So this puts in short what our practice is all about. And then the third verse, also in our Pratimoksha, not insulting, not harming, cultivating restraint with respect for the training, modesty in eating, and contentment with one's dwelling place, devotion to mindful intent. This is the teaching of the Buddha. Or here, to speak no ill, to do no harm, to keep the precepts, to eat enough but not too much, to live apart and meditate. This is the message of the Buddhas. Okay, so again, it's very good instructions, okay? Not speaking ill of others, insulting people, not harming them in any way, keeping our precepts with a mind that has respect for the training, because we see that the Buddha set out this training for the purpose of attaining liberation. The Buddha didn't set out the training just because he felt like it, or, on a fluke, or, just so that there was something there, but, for the specific purpose of liberation. And so learn to cultivate modesty in eating and contentment with our dwelling place, and with our clothes, and the Buddha didn't say this, with our computers and with whatever vehicles we have and with any kind of objects we use, cultivating a mind of contentment. And then this gives space for the mind to be mindful and to cultivate good attitudes, and to generate realizations. Because when we're not satisfied, when we're not content, then the mind is always filled with thoughts saying, I want this, I need that, I want the other thing, how come somebody else has it and I don't have it? And there's no peace in the mind. When there's no peace, then very difficult to actually cultivate. So part of our practice of cultivation is learning to make the mind peaceful when it is dissatisfied. And that then opens the doorway to generate love and compassion and wisdom and all sorts of other realizations. So these three verses were those special verses that the Buddha said for the Pratimoksha on that day. And in our version, they are attributed to some of the previous Buddhas, the 7 previous Buddhas. Okay, but very good advice for everybody, whether you're ordained or not ordained. Isn't it?